So I remember I told the man I was dating at the time that I believed I was talking to aliens. Makes me laugh because what's interesting is that he grew up in a Mormon family. And if you look into what they believe, this was not a foreign concept to him. I didn't know that at the time though. Like I had no idea. What was actually happening was I was communicating with interdimensionals, angels, and some demons. I was communicating with dead loved ones, so mediumship abilities came online too. Like I didn't exactly know who it was that I was talking to. The messages were coming in all messed up because basically the human body is like a radio receiver. If you're tuned in between stations, like if you're not properly aligned, right? The dial is a little bit to this side, like on the radio, it's gonna be all like, and then you'll just get like certain words in there and like half sentences. You may not even like hear the right word. Like for example, I was communicating a lot with angels and I kept hearing the word uncle and I was like, what? I was writing down like all these different versions of what I was hearing. I realize now that they were like angel, angel, messenger, messenger. That's what the word angel means. This is something you need to practice. You need to keep your dial upright in the proper position at all times in order for you to get clear messages. And then even then, those messages need to pass through your own resonance fields so that you're not tainting it with your own beliefs about the information that you're getting, if that makes sense. More on that later. So I was being both guided and misdirected based on who it was that I was talking to. For example, I had one experience where I was communicating with this being that was trying to give me really technical information. I was like doing a drawing in my notebook, and then my stepmom came in. At the time, I didn't realize that it was her, but now I know that it was. She came in, she said, "Don't talk to them, they're evil. Change this station." And stopped communicating with who was giving me that information. There's this process that you go through when you are addressing psychic abilities where you have to differentiate between the dark and the light because they're both going to want to talk to you. One is going to try to mislead you or use you like for their own agenda, and the other one is going to try to empower you and keep you on your ascension path. You can't really tell the difference by what they sound like or who they say they are. You have to do it by what it feels like. So in that moment, I could tell the difference between the way that being felt versus my stepmom who came in, who's always been loving and giving and just like a beautiful light on this world to everybody she met. And there was a clear difference between what the loving beings feel like and the not loving ones. It was a consistent process of what does this feel like? Does this information give me anxiety? This consciousness that I'm communicating with, does it make me feel heavy? And sometimes I also notice that the data that you get is so foreign that it can create anxiety because it's brushing up against your belief system and basically crushing what you think is true about your reality. And that in itself can be scary. And so it takes a lot of practice to differentiate between, is this just new information that freaks me out? Is this a darker entity or is this a light entity? And then you have to figure out what to do with the information. The best thing to do is just to let it sit there until you're sure of the info you have and who you're meant to give it to, or if it's just meant for you. A lot of people, when they first wake up and they have access to all this information, they're like, oh my God, I must share this with everyone. I like preaching. And they get all like very ungrounded, like preachy type people that like seem crazy. That's why that happens, because it can be really overwhelming because the stuff that you're getting is so profound and you're like, oh my God, we don't live right. We're being poisoned. People don't see the way that we're being controlled. Everything we're taught is wrong. You feel like you have to hurry up and tell people this stuff. These are things that people need to find out on their own. You can offer guidance, but if someone is 100% in the dark with their eyes completely closed, they have to go through their own initial awakening spark, just like I did, although it's not always going to be that abrupt, before they'll even be receptive to this kind of information. So